My parents sold my $1.5 million beach house without telling me. They forged my name on every legal document, pocketed the cash, and used it to fund my sister's over-the-top wedding live-streamed on Instagram. The day I found out, I pulled into the driveway expecting silence, solitude, maybe some much-needed fresh air by the ocean. Instead, I saw strangers hauling my furniture into a moving truck. I didn't scream, I didn't argue. I just took a picture of the deed nailed to the door, and I drove away. They thought they'd get away with it. They thought I'd roll over like always. But they had no idea who they were messing with. My name is Elena Morales. I'm 38 years old. I'm a civil litigation attorney in Boston. I've spent over a decade helping people recover what was stolen from them. What I never expected was having to use my legal training to go after my own parents. That beach house wasn't just property. It was peace. It was the only thing anyone ever left me without strings. It was a gift from the man who saw me when the rest of the world didn't, and they took it. Before I take you through what happened, what they did, what I did, and how I turned their picture-perfect wedding day into the beginning of their unraveling, take a second, like this video, subscribe, and if you've ever been betrayed by your own family, I want to hear it in the comments. Because this story isn't just about a house. It's about boundaries. It's about silence. And it's about what happens when the quiet one finally speaks. Back then, growing up, I was the reliable daughter, the one who colored inside the lines. I did my homework, cleaned up my dishes, paid for my own college, and filed my own taxes by the time I turned 18. My sister, Bianca. She was the golden child, the loud one, the beautiful one, the one with potential that needed nurturing, as my mom liked to put it. She needed things, attention, applause, money. And she got them. When she wanted ballet lessons paid in full. When I asked to attend a pre-law summer camp at Yale, Mom smiled, handed me a flyer, and said, "There's a deadline for scholarship applications." When Bianca crashed her first car, my dad had a new one delivered in under a week. When I needed new textbooks freshman year, I had to skip meals and pick up an extra shift at the campus law library. I used to tell myself it didn't matter, that I'd rather earn things than have them handed to me. And I did. Law school, clerkship, firm partner. I built everything with my own hands. But what stung wasn't the money. It was how invisible I had become in my own family. Then came the beach house. It wasn't left to me by a family member. It came from someone who saw my worth long before I believed it myself. The gift that changed everything. His name was Henry Faulkner, my mentor from undergrad. He was the only professor who knew I was working 3 jobs to keep my tuition paid. He taught me contracts, constitutional law, and how to sharpen my voice until it could slice through a courtroom. When he retired, he moved to a quiet stretch of beachfront land in Cape Nettic, Maine, and when he passed away 4 years ago, I found out through his attorney that he'd left that house to me. Not his kids, not the university, me. It was a stunning cedar-shingled 2-story home right on the water, not flashy, but solid, with views that made you forget the world for a while. The deed came with a note. "Elena, you reminded me of myself when I was young, relentless, principled, too quiet but fiercely clear inside. This home gave me peace. Now it's yours." I cried when I read it. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I didn't tell my family much about it. They smiled politely when I mentioned it in passing, then moved the conversation back to Bianca's latest breakup or her most recent brand deal. Fine. I didn't need them to celebrate with me. It was mine. It was enough. Or so I thought. Trouble in white lace. When Bianca got engaged last year, the whole family lit up like a Christmas tree. Our parents went into full royal wedding mode. Bianca's fiancé, Chase, was a crypto entrepreneur who drove a Tesla and bragged about NFTs at dinner. He was charming in a slippery way, All flash, no foundation, like their entire relationship. Still, everyone pretended it was a fairy tale. I showed up to the engagement party with a polite smile and a cashmere scarf. Bianca showed up with a $10,000 ring and a camera crew. She announced that her wedding would be streamed live in partnership with 2 bridal brands. It wasn't a ceremony, it was a production. The guest list ballooned to 300. The venue changed from a vineyard in Vermont to an oceanside estate that had hosted actual celebrity weddings. The gown was handmade in Italy. The menu had foie gras and a gold leaf cake. Our parents never blinked. No one ever asked where the money was coming from. But something felt off. They were quieter around me, evasive. My mother stopped talking about the house. My father dodged conversations about retirement savings. And Bianca, she started referring to our house on Instagram stories. At first, I thought she meant her future home with Chase. But one day, she posted a photo of herself standing on a deck I recognized. Mine. And that was the moment something in me shifted. I didn't explode. I didn't demand answers. I did what I was trained to do: observe, gather, prepare. Because the worst betrayals don't always come from enemies. They come from the people who smile at you over dinner, raise their glass to your success, and steal from you when you're not looking. They thought I wouldn't notice. But I did, and I was going to make sure they never forgot what happened next. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always start with a bang. Sometimes, it trickles in slowly, quiet omissions, awkward pauses, and polite deflections. That's how it began for me. After Bianca posted that photo on my deck, I started paying closer attention. At first, I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe she had just visited the house while I was away. Maybe Mom had used the place for some event and didn't think it was worth mentioning. But something about the caption stuck in my mind. She wrote, "Sunsets hit different at our little coastal escape. Can't wait to celebrate here soon." Not their escape. Not her escape. Our? The word pressed itself into my brain like a splinter. At dinner the next weekend, I brought it up casually. "Mom, did Bianca go up to the beach house last week?" She didn't look up from her phone. "Oh, I think so. She mentioned something about taking photos there." My dad jumped in too quickly. "It's good PR for the wedding. Elena, you're not using it much lately, are you?" The way he said it, like it was a shared family property instead of mine, made my skin prickle. "I still pay the taxes," I replied evenly, "and the utilities, and the insurance." He waved it off. "We just assumed you wouldn't mind." That was the first real warning bell. Assumptions in my family always came at my expense. Over the next few weeks, the wedding planning hit overdrive. Bianca announced that she'd hired a wedding content strategist, not a planner, a strategist, someone whose job was to make the entire wedding go viral. She gave interviews, did brand partnerships, started a TikTok series called Countdown to Bianca. It racked up followers fast, hundreds of thousands. My parents, they were basking in it. They said she was finally making something of herself. All I saw was an Instagram filter over a financial black hole. I asked one night lightly, "Is there a wedding budget?" My mother laughed. "Of course. We're just flexible." Flexible in my family usually meant secretive. But I still had no idea, not until my neighbor from the beach house called. Her name was Marie, sweet woman, retired teacher. She lived just past the hedges that lined my property. She said it so simply. "Elena, honey, I just wanted to check, are you okay with the sale?" The word hit me like a punch. "What sale?" I asked, my voice going cold. Marie hesitated. "Oh dear. I assumed. I heard the movers talking, and a couple came by last weekend to tour it. They said closing was in 2 weeks." I gripped the phone tighter. "Did they say who was selling it?" "Your folks. I thought it was all settled." My hands started shaking. "Marie," I said carefully, "that property is in my name. No one can sell it but me." A long pause. Oh, sweetheart, I think you'd better come up here." I made the 3-hour drive the next morning. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't text. Didn't ask. I needed to see it for myself. The house sat just like I remembered, windswept, quiet, stoic. But there was a strange car in the driveway. A silver Lexus. Plates from New Jersey. I stepped out, heart racing, and walked toward the front door. A woman was standing on the porch with a clipboard. She turned when she saw me and smiled. "You must be Elena." I froze. "Yes. And you are?" She extended a hand. "Jenna Peterson. My husband and I just closed on the property last week. We're so excited. I was just taking inventory with the contractor." My blood turned to ice. "That's not possible," I said slowly. "I never sold this house." Her smile faded. "But your parents handled everything. We were told you were busy and that they had power of attorney." "I never gave them that," I said. "This property was willed to me directly. My name is on the deed." She looked horrified. "Oh God, we already paid. We moved out of our old home. This was everything." I barely heard her after that. I was already walking around to the side entrance. My key still worked. Inside, the furniture had been rearranged. The walls were bare. Photos gone. Books packed. It was no longer mine. And yet, it had never belonged to anyone else. I felt a strange sense of dissociation, like I'd walked into a dream version of my life where I didn't exist. I snapped photos, the deed posted on the fridge, the moving invoices, anything that had a paper trail. Then I left without saying goodbye. Back in Boston, I called the county records office. The property had been transferred 2 weeks earlier, documents signed, funds wired. The sale was real. Except the signature on the deed transfer wasn't mine. It looked like mine, kind of, but the slant was wrong. The loops were too neat. And the notary stamp belonged to someone I'd never heard of. I sat there, staring at the screen, heart thudding. They'd done it. They forged my name, sold my house, and smiled to my face like nothing happened. That night, I opened Bianca's TikTok. She'd just posted a clip from her wedding dress fitting. In the caption, she wrote, "Thank you to my family for making every dream come true, especially my sister, Elena, for her incredible contribution. You're my rock." The comments were filled with hearts. "What a queen, love. How close you are as sister's real one." I read those comments and didn't know whether to laugh or scream. I hadn't given them a penny. They'd taken it, without permission, without remorse. And now, they were rewriting the story in front of thousands of people. But I had the real story. And I was about to make sure the world saw it, too. I didn't call my parents. I didn't confront Bianca. Not yet. Because when someone tries to erase you from your own life, you don't argue. You document, you prepare, you wait. And then you take it all back. After that night, something shifted in me. Not panic, not even rage, just focus. Cold, sharp focus. They'd taken the house, rewritten the story, and paraded it across the internet like a trophy. But I wasn't about to become a footnote in my own life. I knew what came next. Not confrontation, not yet. What I needed was proof airtight, indisputable. Because when people lie that well, they always assume you won't have the receipts. I started where I always do: paper. At the county clerk's office, I requested every document related to the property transfer. I sat down at a small metal table and flipped through them one by one. And there it was. My signature. Clean, precise, slightly too perfect. Whoever had forged it had studied me, copied the lean in the L, the sharp bend of the E. But it wasn't mine. It lacked hesitation. It lacked weight. You can forge style. You can't forge muscle memory. Then I looked at the notary seal. A woman named Clarissa Bell, licensed in Connecticut. The property was in Maine. The sale had closed in Massachusetts. Red flag. I made a few calls. Turns out, Clarissa hadn't notarized anything in months. She'd lost her license earlier that year for stamping forms she never witnessed. She was willing to talk, even gave me a signed affidavit stating that she never met me, never saw me sign anything, and certainly never notarized that deed. That was my first confirmation this wasn't an accident. It was a plan. A deliberate, illegal, and frankly, arrogant plan. Meanwhile, Bianca's wedding train was barreling ahead. My parents sent out engraved invitations, gold foil, wax seal, the works. The RSVP site crashed the first day. A week later, I got a message from an old classmate I hadn't heard from in years. "Hey, Elena, just saw the house on Bianca's wedding registry site. That's your place, right? So cool of you to donate it as the honeymoon fund. Generous move." I nearly dropped my phone. They were telling people I gave the house up for her wedding, framed it as some kind of sisterly sacrifice. There was even a little video embedded on the site. Bianca, sitting on a velvet bench, misty-eyed. She said, "My sister Elena is my rock. I'll never forget what she did for me. Letting go of her beach house to give us the wedding we always dreamed of. That's love." I sat there, watching it in disbelief. The piano music, the slow zoom, the candlelit background. It was perfectly staged. Completely fake. That weekend, we had a family dinner. I almost didn't go, but part of me wanted to see it, see their faces, test the waters, read the room. My mother answered the door like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek. "You look tired. Are you sleeping enough?" Inside, the table was already set. White tulips, crystal glasses, place cards. Bianca was glowing, tan from some pre-wedding detox retreat in Arizona. She was wearing a diamond bracelet I'd never seen before. "Early wedding gift," she said when she caught me looking. "From Mom and Dad." I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Later, over dessert, she pulled out her phone and started showing off honeymoon plans. First Bali, then overwater villas in the Maldives, and then a week in Paris for some downtime. "Downtime," I said quietly, "after all that rest." She laughed like I'd made a joke. Everyone else chuckled with her. I excused myself to the bathroom. In the hallway, I paused in front of the living room wall. The family photos had been rearranged. Several were missing. Gone was the one of me and Henry Faulkner on the front porch of the beach house. Gone was the picture of the beach at sunset framed, signed, gifted to me by Henry before he died. In their place, a blown-up shot of Bianca and Chase in matching linen. My stomach dropped. They weren't just rewriting the present. They were erasing the past. The next day, I got a call from Chase. It was unexpected. We barely spoke, but he called like we were old friends. "Elena, hey, I just wanted to say thanks." "For what?" He laughed awkwardly. "The house. The wedding. Bianca said you'd made a huge contribution. Honestly, I was surprised, but really grateful." There was a beat of silence. I said, "What exactly did she tell you?" "Just that it was your idea, that you offered to sell the place for the wedding. She got emotional about it last week. Said she never expected that from you." I paused. Then I said carefully, "Did you see the paperwork?" He hesitated. No. Your parents handled it, I think." "Why?" "No reason," I said, and hung up. Ow. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was confused, because I wasn't. They had sold the house behind my back. They had forged my name. They had built an entire narrative that made me look like a willing donor, an angelic sister sacrificing everything for love. And the world was buying it. But it wasn't true. And if I'd learned anything from law school, it was this: the truth, handled properly, doesn't just catch up, it crushes. That Monday, I sat down with Stephanie, my friend, my law partner, my witness. I laid everything out: the deed, the forged signature, the invalid notary, the affidavit, the bank records, the fake video, the paper trail. She leaned back in her chair, blew out a breath, and said, "Jesus, I want my house back," I said. She nodded. "You'll get it. And I want them to feel it." She didn't ask what I meant. She knew. "What's the plan?" she asked. I smiled. We let them finish the wedding. Let them pose, toast, smile, make it the most expensive lie they've ever told. And then I burned the script. Stephanie didn't ask if I was sure. She knew me too well. We'd gone to law school together, survived 70-hour work weeks together, built our firm from the ground up together. So when I slid the file across the table, the deed, the affidavit, the screenshots, she didn't flinch. She just asked, "What's your goal?" I answered without hesitation. "I want the house back, every cent they stole, their lies exposed. And jail." I paused. That was the question I wasn't ready to answer. My parents were liars, frauds. They'd violated the law in multiple ways, civil and criminal. But did I want to see them in orange jumpsuits? No. I wanted them to live through it. To watch everything they'd tried to build collapse on top of them. To walk through the same humiliation they'd handed me smiling. Stephanie leaned forward. "Then we start now, quietly." And that's exactly what we did. We began documenting everything. Every forged form, every forged stamp, every withdrawal from their bank accounts that corresponded with a wedding expense. A $15,000 dress, purchased the same day the check cleared from the fake sale. $8,000 for flowers, same day as another withdrawal. Chase's groomsmen suits custom tailored in Paris. $12,500, confirmed by the boutique when I called, pretending to be a vendor. Each receipt became a pin in a map. Each pin pointed to fraud. We brought in Martin, a criminal attorney Stephanie trusted. He looked over the paperwork and whistled. "This isn't just forgery. This is financial fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, a grand slam of felony-level stupidity." He chuckled, but I didn't smile. "Will they go to jail?" I asked. "Depends on the DA," he said. "But with this much evidence, it's likely, unless you cut a deal." I don't want a deal. Over the next 2 weeks, I acted like nothing was wrong. I went to my bridesmaid fittings, smiled through cake tastings, sat through flower arrangements and menu pairings and seating chart discussions. I was a ghost in the machine present, polite, invisible. Exactly the way they liked me, exactly the way I needed to be. Because while they rehearsed their dream wedding, I was writing the closing argument. The night before the wedding, I drafted a letter. Not legal, not professional, just honest. A letter to my parents. It started with, what you did wasn't just illegal, it was betrayal. I told them everything. How I knew, what I'd uncovered, the evidence I'd compiled. How they hadn't just taken money, they'd stolen my peace, my inheritance, my name. I ended with a promise. I won't ruin the wedding. I want Bianca to have her moment. But the day after, the reckoning begins. Then I printed it, sealed it, addressed it to them both. I scheduled the courier to arrive at 9 a.m. the morning after the wedding. The last step was the trigger. Stephanie and I built a file, detailed, chronological, every legal document, witness statement, and supporting photo. We attached it to a digital brief and scheduled its delivery to the county recorder's office, the district attorney's office, the Petersons, who bought the house, the local real estate board, and a journalist I knew from undergrad, now writing for a consumer justice column. Everything was timed for 900 a.m. Not a second earlier, because I wanted them to enjoy it. Every petal, every flute of champagne, every camera flash and curated pose. They'd spent the money. They'd told the story. Now they would choke on it. On the morning of the wedding, I woke up early, not out of excitement, out of discipline. I reviewed the plan, checked the courier, confirmed the email schedule. Then I stood in front of the mirror and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I practiced smiling. The kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes, the kind that holds a blade behind it. That afternoon, I arrived at the estate on time, hair curled, dress steamed, makeup flawless. Bianca lit up when she saw me. "Elena, oh my God, look at you. You're giving Duchess energy." I smiled, just here to support the Queen. The ceremony was a blur of money. Imported orchids, a quartet flown in from London, a cake taller than me, dusted with edible silver. My parents beamed. Bianca cried on cue. Chase looked like a kid at Disneyland. I stood behind her, holding her train like a prop. And I let them have it. Because tomorrow, there would be nothing left standing. At the reception, I made my way to the champagne fountain. My dad was there, already tipsy. He raised his glass. "To my brilliant daughters. One married a prince. The other made it all possible." He laughed. The crowd laughed with him. I lifted my glass, didn't say a word. Later, Bianca gave her speech. She thanked the vendors, the guests, the sponsors of her live stream. Then she turned to me, and to my sister Elena. She said, voice thick with emotion, "Who gave up something priceless, just so I could have this? I'll never forget your gift." The crowd clapped. Some even teared up. I smiled again. Because what they didn't know was that I was taking it all back. The morning after the wedding was silent. No texts, no calls, no posts. The digital noise had paused just long enough for the truth to arrive. At 900 a.m. sharp, the courier knocked on my parents' door. He handed them a thick envelope, my letter, and the legal packet from Stephanie. Simultaneously, 5 emails went out, to the county clerk, to the district attorney, to the Petersons, to the real estate board, and to Emma Huang, the consumer justice reporter I'd known in college. The subject line, inheritance theft and real estate fraud, a family's public lie. It didn't take long. By 9:03 a.m., my father was calling. I let it ring. Then my mother, then Bianca. Voicemail after voicemail. "Call us immediately. This is a huge misunderstanding. You can't do this to us. You'll ruin everything." By 9:30, texts were coming in from extended family. Aunt Teresa, Cousin Lucas, my godmother. I ignored them all. Because the one thing I'd learned the hard way is that when people betray you this deeply, they'll do anything to control the story, right up until they can't. At 10:10, the Petersons responded. They'd seen the email. They were shocked, furious, and grateful. "Thank you for telling us," Jenna wrote. "We felt something was off during the sale, but they seemed so polished, so prepared." Stephanie followed up with them immediately, assured them we'd be petitioning the court to reverse the sale, told them they were victims too, and we'd help them recover every cent. They agreed to cooperate. That afternoon, they sent us every document, every text thread, every voicemail from my parents. It confirmed everything: the deception, the misrepresentation, the rush to close. Even the staged handwritten letter from me, thanking them for helping move on from the past. A letter I never wrote. Another forgery, another nail. By noon, Emma published the article. Front page of the Boston Weekly Digital. The headline was brutal. Sisterhood for sale. Attorney uncovers family's $1 million wedding fraud. She had the receipts. All of them. My letter. The notary's affidavit. The fake deed. The banking records. She'd even embedded the TikTok of Bianca tearfully thanking me for gifting the house, side by side with the court records showing the forged sale. Within 2 hours, it hit Twitter. By 3:00, it was trending. Beach house betrayal, sister scandal, had fake wedding funds. People weren't just watching, they were furious. The comments exploded. She stole her sister's house for a cake and a hashtag. Imagine faking gratitude after committing literal fraud. Parents like that don't deserve daughters like her. Even other influencers weighed in. One posted, "I worked with Bianca once. She's all aesthetic, no ethics." Bianca's brand partners started pulling out. One deleted all collabs from their page. Another issued a statement. "We do not condone fraud or deceit, and this partnership is officially terminated." Her wedding page disappeared overnight. That evening, I turned my phone back on. The voicemail from Bianca was nearly 5 minutes long. She was crying hysterical, furious, gasping between sentences. "You blindsided us. You could have talked to me first. We're being humiliated." Then the part that stuck with me. "You ruined my honeymoon." I actually laughed. Not loud, not cruel, just a breath of irony. She had taken my house, my inheritance, my peace. And the thing she mourned most was a vacation. The next morning, Stephanie called. "The DA reached out," she said. "They're opening an investigation." My breath caught. "Do they want to pursue charges?" "Yes, and they have every reason to." "But," she hesitated, "they're also asking if you want to support a deal. Restitution and public apology in exchange for avoiding jail." I was quiet. "What do you want?" she asked. I thought about it. Not just about the house, but about the silence. The years of being ignored, stepped over, taken for granted. This wasn't just about money. This was about dignity and legacy. "I want it all on record," I said. "But no prison. They can live in the shame." Stephanie nodded. "We'll push for restitution, full amount, and a signed statement admitting guilt. And I want it published." Done. 3 days later, we met with my parents and Bianca. They insisted on doing it in private, my childhood home. I didn't go alone. Stephanie came. So did Martin. When we walked in, the energy was different. No smugness, no deflection, just fear. My mother looked like she hadn't slept. My father avoided eye contact. Bianca looked puffy, mascara stained, clutching a tissue like it was armor. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then my father said, "You didn't have to do this publicly." I stared at him. "I didn't do this. You did." Bianca jumped in. "I didn't know. I swear. Mom and Dad told me you were giving the house as a wedding gift. I believed them." I believed her, mostly. But it didn't change anything. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "I'm here to reclaim what's mine, and to give you the opportunity to take accountability before the law does it for you." Martin laid out the terms. They nodded through it all. They'd pay restitution every penny. They'd publicly apologize. They'd enter counseling. They'd cooperate with the investigation. And they'd never speak on my behalf again. I handed my mother a pen. She hesitated, then signed the document with a trembling hand. My father followed. Then Bianca. It was done. As we left, my mom touched my arm. "Elena, do you hate us?" I looked at her, at the woman who had once packed my school lunches, and later forged my name on a deed. I don't hate you, I said quietly, but I don't trust you. And I probably never will. She didn't reply. The house came back to me 2 months later. A quiet court hearing. No press, no cameras, just documents, signatures, and a gavel that landed like closure. The Petersons received a full refund plus damages. My parents took out a second mortgage on their home. Bianca liquidated what little she had in brand deals before the rest were terminated. Publicly, they kept quiet, but the whispers never stopped. The article stayed online. Comments still trickled in weeks later. The hashtags slowed, but they never disappeared. At the country club, people stared. At the grocery store, people whispered. Old friends reached out not with support, but with gossip dressed as concern. Bianca deactivated all her accounts. My parents started attending counseling. They told me it was helpful. I never asked for details. We spoke occasionally. Polite, brief, surface level. There was no more pretending we were fine. Just silence where the trust used to be. And that, somehow, was harder than the betrayal. But I chose distance. Not out of anger, out of self-respect. Back at the house, I started over. I repainted the doors, rehung the old framed photo of me and Henry on the porch. I sat by the windows every evening, coffee in hand, watching the ocean just breathe. The house felt different, not haunted, but scarred. And still mine. It took almost a full year before I felt like myself again. Not the version of me who smiled through family dinners and swallowed her boundaries for the sake of peace, but the version who looked at a locked door and knew she had the key. The one who stopped apologizing for standing her ground. People still asked me if I forgave them. My parents. Bianca. I never had a perfect answer. Forgiveness, for me, wasn't about making them feel better. It wasn't a neat ending with a ribbon tied around it. It was distance. It was clarity. It was learning that peace isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about knowing what you won't tolerate again. Bianca and I spoke a few times after everything unfolded. Mostly awkward, occasionally honest. One afternoon, she called me from a new number. Said she and Chase had moved to Miami. Said the press still followed her occasionally, but the heat had cooled. Then, after a long pause, she asked me something I hadn't expected. If they'd just asked you, would you have done it? I didn't answer right away. I watched the light ripple across the water from the front window. Felt the weight of the question. Not just from her, but from the years behind it. No, I said finally. I wouldn't have sold it. Not for a wedding. Not for anything. Bianca was quiet. I added. That house wasn't just wood and stone. It was the one thing in my life I didn't have to fight for. The only thing I didn't have to earn. It was left to me by someone who valued me simply for who I was. She didn't argue. She just said, yeah, I figured. There was something in her voice then. Regret, maybe. Or maybe the first crack in the armor she'd worn her whole life. We didn't talk much after that, but that moment stayed with me. My parents made good on the restitution. They paid every cent back eventually. They sent out a letter to extended family, admitting what they did. No excuses, no spin. It was too late to fix the past, but they tried to face it. I'll give them that. We keep our distance now. I visit for holidays, sometimes. We hug, we eat. We don't talk about the house. But I notice small changes. My mother listens more. My father no longer jokes about letting things go. They never bring up Bianca's wedding. They know better. The lake house, my house, is mine again. Fully, quietly, unequivocally. It's where I go when I need to remember who I am. I host friends there now. We cook, we laugh, we walk barefoot in the sand. I planted a garden along the fence line this spring. Lavender, rosemary, native seagrass. It's not just a place anymore. It's a boundary, a living one, a symbol that what's mine will never again be taken without a fight. Looking back, I don't regret how I handled it. I didn't scream. I didn't burn everything down. I just told the truth, and I let it land where it needed to. It's funny people think revenge is loud, but sometimes it's a legal document, a silent press of send, a quiet refusal to disappear. So if you're listening to this and wondering what to do when the people closest to you cross a line, know this: you don't owe them your silence. You don't owe them your peace. And you are allowed to protect what's yours, even if it means standing alone to do it. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is simply, no, not this time. And mean it. Have you ever had to draw a line with your own family? Have you ever been made to feel small, just for setting boundaries? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story hit home for you, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's survival. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stand tall, stand quiet if you need to, but never, ever stand down.